And we are live. Welcome back to OnlyFiends DND. And tonight we are going to do a very special Tales from Trollskull Tavern. And I have James, aka Qoryn, here with me tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest on the show.
Yeah, not at all, mate. Not at all. It's a pleasure to have you here. I will first just quickly announce that I am running some tabletop ambience. James cannot hear it, so you miss out, but it will go out onto the Twitch, and then also
listening to metalcore anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good to keep you fired up. Yeah, it will go out on the YouTube and on the audio format. So thank you to Tabletop Audio for that. Obligatory thank you for Roll20 and a bunch of the other stuff. D&D Beyond. What else do we use? Tokens, Hero Forge, all of that stuff. Thank you for everyone that makes this game possible. So yeah, just getting that out of the way. Tonight we are going to recap our session from last week, session number 77. A really good session. All 5 of us were there. Some pretty crazy plot stuff that happened. I think we were all kind of thrown in a big melting pot of action that was kind of put together after all of us were kind of a little bit in a few different locations. So we'll talk about that. And then afterwards, I will give up what's up with the voice? I will give a quick Q&A discussion with Qoryn, or James/Qoryn, about his character. Chat, why are you doing this to me? Chat what's up with the voice? I don't know. What is up with the voice? I hope it's all right. Somebody check the sound.
Is he talking about you or me?
No idea. I don't have any monitoring, so...
Well, the biggest treat for anyone listening is that since there's so few of us, it's only the 2 of us now, there's even more of my voice taking over too much of the conversation.
James sounds incredibly snooty. Get wrecked.
Well, I mean, accurate.
Oh, okay. I'm on board now. I understand. She's talking about the voice to start up. Oh, I mean, it's incredible to be here. That voice. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
It took me a second to understand what she was talking about. But yeah, it's session number 77. We're talking through that. James, yourself, as somebody who is quite new to this game, give me just early thoughts on how you're feeling about the game so far, and feel free to destroy the DM in retaliation.
I mean, it's fucking chaos.
Yeah.
We've made a repeated joke about the fact that I will ask a question about what has happened, and somebody, usually Lockie, will come back with an explanation of some absurd adventure that you guys have gone on before I got there. And I'm just tacitly accepting it at this point. It's interesting to jump into a campaign midway. It's not something I've actually done before. So jumping into a campaign midway when there's all this already previously established history with the characters and like the adventures that they've been on, and just lots of funny, quirky things that have already happened, which is all just standard D&D fare. Like anyone that's played a D&D campaign, you hear these stories and you're like, yeah, that just sounds like D&D. But try to put yourself in the mindset of a character thrown into that and being like, this sounds insane. You people are insane.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Because Qoryn,
it's pretty interesting.
I've remarked a few times on this podcast, like that Qoryn is a character that is almost the total opposite of the 2 main people in Theron and Tricky. Obviously, Rykert's come along a little bit later. But like Theron and Tricky are very just like, we've already been on all these crazy and done all these crazy things, and very just like goth emo. So I often remark like Qoryn coming in and like spicing things up makes things a little bit more interesting, because I think it makes us just go, oh yeah, like it's not all doom and gloom. Like we're not just like, yeah, these people are after us, who's going to be after us today? So it's been super fun to have you along, and I think generally you play the character really well. Like the funny jokes that play off some of our kind of like emo type humor is, I think, really, it's been a good addition. It's been really fun. So
yeah, I mean, we I before joining the campaign, I obviously had a pretty long discussion with our lovely DM, and she'd given me some sort of vague outline of what the characters were like, what their skill sets were, and what the party might have been missing. And so I decided to bring a character which was, a face guy, because that's firstly what I'm good at in general. In real life, if I was a D&D class in real life, I would be a bard. Not because I'm a particularly good musician. I'm a bang average musician, but because my highest IRL stat would definitely be charisma. Like, I can never shut up. I'm always the center of attention everywhere I go. People either find me hilarious and charming or completely obnoxious, and there's no in between. So yeah, I decided to kind of bring that along, and then I kind of built all of the spells around being, like support spells, essentially.
Yeah.
So I went with another kind of frontliner, with the College of Swords subclass, which means that I can just go in and hit stuff with weapon. So you've got another kind of semi-martial class going on, and then all of the spells, I haven't taken anything that is like, I don't think I have a single damage spell at all. I think they're all just support spells.
Yeah.
Utility stuff. So I decided to bring that along, and then in terms of the personality, I think that there's a lot of people, and it's for a very good reason, it makes for interesting characters, but everyone in D&D tends to make characters with some sort of dark thing that's happened in their past, and some bad stuff that has gone down, or some tragedy that's befallen them. Qoryn doesn't have any of that at all. So just he genuinely is just a guy that grew up hearing about his mum's adventures, and then he went to a college where he heard about other people's adventures, and was just like, wow, being an adventurer sounds pretty cool, so I'm going to go and do that.
It's definitely,
and,
it's definitely like,
he has a good relationship with his mum. He's grown up in a relatively happy, healthy household. Nothing particularly tragic has ever happened to him. And anything that can come back to bite him is shit that he's done himself by overstepping or being an idiot.
It's definitely a character that fits with what we are, and I like it, because there's a lot of joviality too, right? And I think it like moves us along in a positive way, because you're right. I think both Theron and Tricky as characters both have like that dark past, and I was just thinking as you're kind of explaining it, if there's just 5 dark or 6 dark pasts in the game, then it gets incredibly heavy and tense, and you're just basically funeral dirging to all of these dark past stories, which I think it's a nice little juxtaposition on the two characters, and it's been a really good addition to our party anyway. But we'll talk. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that at the end. We'll keep some powder dry. We won't go off too early. And we'll just have a quick chat about the session 77 that was last Sunday. Now, I don't know why my brain just didn't process then it was last Sunday. I wanted to say for last Sunday, it was session number 77, which was basically bringing us all together to go into this lair. You weren't at the previous session, I believe. That was right?
No, I wasn't. Yeah. I wasn't at the previous session.
Which is interesting to bring somebody who wasn't there into this scenario of essentially the end of the previous session. Everything had gone dark. It was a one of those like, oh no, what's going to happen? And there was an ominous voice sort of saying, "Who has entered my lair?" It's sometimes you can tell how deadly a character is by the voice, and this voice was a little bit like, oh no, I don't know who this is. I don't know what this is. We haven't heard a voice like this before. Could it be evil? Could it be bad? We're all through the week kind of looking forward to just being like, okay, what actually is this?
If it can make you, the man with the deepest voice on the planet, go to the octave that you just went to 20 seconds ago, then it's got to be something intimidating.
My voice isn't that deep, is it?
Your normal speaking voices, yeah.
Oh,
it's
okay.
very.
All right. I'll take that as a compliment. I do have a decent range though. I think if I was a character in the real world, I'd be a bard that could play a little bit better music, but has less of a charisma stat. It's pretty depth.
Okay, now I have an idea for a great party.
it's a little
Just
Johnny
all
Depp.
bards.
Yeah, that's actually for one of the one shots we play in the future. I think we'll definitely play all bards. We've got to revisit that one shot where we're all female characters, which I thought was pretty fun as well.
Oh, that was really good. I'd love to continue that one. I think we had some good characters in there.
Yeah.
And the previous one shot that we did with the frozen sick one.
Yeah, that was so good.
I think we had some fun characters.
Your character in the other one, right, was a barbarian as well. And I'm pretty sure she had like that accent, same accent. Yorkshire. Is it Yorkshire?
Yeah, it's Yorkshire.
Yeah.
But Gardon's not a barbarian, dude. He's a paladin.
No. But the previous, like the female character, I can't remember what her name is.
Well, no, she's not specifically from Yorkshire. She's from Manchester.
That's right. That's
slightly different accent. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she's not. She's from Fantasy Manchester, whereas this guy's from Fantasy Sheffield, basically.
Because all I could think of, like, those two are the same character. I'm like, oh, is he doing the same character? But turns out they weren't. Anyway, let's stop getting sidetracked and let's talk about session number 77. Hopefully we'll be able to revisit those one shots in the future because they're pretty fun. But we started out, we were all brought together in this dark cave, and we had a little side, what would you call it? A little side part where Karim went to his hometown, or his some sort of like little backstory element that he went to. I'm just going to change it to
the thing with the sheep.
Yeah, which I was like, at the time, like in the first 20 odd minutes of a game is where I'm like trying to make sure like everything's working properly and just being like, okay, I gotta like make sure like the sound works, this and that works, everything's going out all right. So usually like in the first 20 minutes, I'm not really paying that much attention, and I wasn't really paying that much attention to this. But then when I re-listened back to it, I was like, that was actually a pretty cool little sequence where I think he walked up to one of his masters. It was very early on in his training, and he gets a tattoo, basically, or the tattoos that we see. And you made an absolutely hilarious comment, which was like, he had these astral arms, and I think you said that's where he gets his right to bear arms.
Oh yeah.
which was a banger. That was the first banger of the night.
Oh, it was because his trading master had an American accent. That's
right.
Joke. I remember now. I remember the joke now. I make so many stupid jokes, I forget them like as soon as they've left my mouth, to be honest.
But that audibly made me laugh when I was listening to it. And so I think he, being an astral, the astral self, he ended up getting his arms or his astral form in that little scenario, or from re-listening to it. That's kind of what I got from it. And it was funny. There was sheep everywhere, and he hates sheep apparently, so that was interesting.
You see, whenever the wave the astral self arms thing comes out, all I could think about is that Pokemon. Is it Machamp with the 4 arms?
Yeah.
That is stuck in my brain. Anytime that comes up, it's just like, that's what is in my head.
Although Machamp is like a little bit less ethereal than like I feel like those ethereal arms are. I don't know, for some reason, like I think of Goro basically from Mortal Kombat. And like you just got like Goro arms sticking out of you.
Yeah, big 4-arm dude.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was nicely done. It was a nice little opening motif to set the scene. And we haven't seen that much of Karim's backstory. I think I tried to ask him in one of the sessions, I don't think you were at, a little bit about his backstory, and he was quite coy about it. I'm not sure if it was like new player type nerves or whether he was just like, oh no, it's part of my character to not tell you about the backstory. So it was nice to get this little set piece here to kind of show you some of his backstory.
It's actually,
yeah.
I was gonna say that's one of the things that I found funny when I first joined the session related to what we were saying earlier. It was there was like, for the first 4 sessions I was there was this suspicion from you and Lockie in character, like, what's this guy's dark secret? Like, when's that gonna come out? It's just like the slow realization, oh, that isn't one. He's just some guy.
But I feel like we're still like waiting for a dark secret to come out, just as in game characters.
Yeah, for sure. But I've been. I think that Alex has settled into the game very, very quickly, and
it's tough it's tough joining.
It's
I mean,
definitely tough getting it.
yeah, and I think you've picked like the perfect character where you could break the ice really quickly and just go like, I'm all about talking. I'll talk a lot. My character's very jovial, so I can break tension moments. Whereas he, being the monk, he had to go straight into that fight, that first fight that we had. And I think he almost went down a few times. Like he got the shit.
He did. He actually legit almost died in his first encounter.
And it's always difficult because in my, like, the way I'm perceiving the game, I'm looking at him going, man, I hope this guy's having fun, and he's not just like, oh, this character sucks, I don't want to play this character. And at the same time, like, you've got to, like, being a player, you've got to think about the experience he's going through and sort of think, you know, I hope you're enjoying this, Jacko.
Well, he immediately, yes, thanks, Jack. Yeah, no, he immediately gave me a vibe as a good player, because it's a very positive, good player attitude to have when your character is about to die, that you've spent ages like writing in the first session, and your response is, oh, looks like I'll be writing a new character in session 2.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's a really good, like, positive attitude. Like, I think that our DM is very good at vetting people before they join the game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, there's a lot of questions to make sure that I would
subtle shade
fit with the group. No, it's as from one DM to another. That is really good that she's, you know, so rigorous with who gets to join and making sure that they'll fit with the dynamic of the people in the group and have, you know, similar sense of humor, similar values, similar ways of playing the game, and all that kind of stuff.
For sure. So, I think
it's really good.
I mean, I'm not a DM, so I don't like, I've always perceived the game in a different way to people who like want to know like as much about the game as possible. Like for me, I don't know that much about like a lot of the game, like the wider parts of the game. So when somebody, for example, like Lockie's like, oh, I know what that monster is, like, because he knows. I'm like, I had no idea what this fucking monster is, man. I'm like, I'm going in blind here.
There's kind of a double-edged sword there, because, you know, it's, as a DM, it's good to be in a party and understand things about the game. And when I'm DMing, I love it when one of my players is a DM, because I do this when I'm in a game as a player, having experience as a DM, is you can tell when the DM is letting out, giving you guys a hook that they want you to bite. And when you're a DM, you can see that a mile off, and then you can go and deliberately bite the bait, and then the other DM's like, great, cool, we're doing the thing that I set up for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the other side of it is what you mentioned there, is that unfortunately, quite a lot of the time, we'll go into a combat encounter, or, you know, there'll be some piece of lore. And because I'm a DM and I've read a lot about the game because I need to, I'll be like, instantly like, I know what this is. So kind of, you know, it's ruining the surprise for me somewhat. And then I have to take my meta knowledge out of it and just use my in-character knowledge, which is 0 for whatever it is that we're coming up against.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's you get less of this like fun thing of working stuff out, you know, like say you were fighting a troll or something as a low-level party, and, you know, one of your players has been a DM and none of the other players have been, or maybe they're new to D&D, maybe they've never fought a troll before and don't know the 2 damage types that will cause it to stop regenerating. And whereas you as the DM do know that, but you don't want to use them because that feels like using meta knowledge while your party, the rest of the party is trying to figure it out. Whereas, you know, it would be nice for the party to have an extra head that would be able to try and figure it out with them. But you've got to kind of take a step back and say, well, I can't be the one to do that, because it's then detracting from something in the game, because I already know that. It's meta knowledge. So
yeah, for sure. And for this encounter that we're about to have, like that's also important knowledge, because you'll find that Lockie will go into these like knowing what creatures are and what they are, whereas when I go into it, I genuinely don't know what some things are sometimes, and I'm just like, cool. And I like being like, I know some people don't really like being in that state of not knowing what they're fighting against, or like they want to know everything about like what they're up against or what's happening in the story. But for me, I like to just like enjoy it And plus, like when I'm juggling all of this stuff trying to stream, I'm also like, cool, I can just kind of like sit back and not pay attention to what's happening, and I kind of enjoy that, being able to do that as well. So we got sucked back into the lair, the dark cave that we were in, and then I do believe it was Karim and Rykit that were the two main people that were kind of on that little landing there when they reheard the voice, which turned out to be a sphinx named Bahiti. And I don't know, I think she's told me, what did she tell me? It was Andro Sphinx.
That would be the male kind.
Yeah, I think that's what she told me, but I should have written it in my notes and I didn't. So
yeah, Andro Sphinx would be the male kind, and I think that this creature is male from.
Yeah, so yep, cool. She's chatta is saying yes. And a few interesting conversations were had. The Sphinx cast Zone of Truth on, I believe it was Karim and myself, and I believe you and Racket just saved like pretty easily.
Yeah, and then I decided to deliberately fail it so that I could prove that I was a trustworthy person.
Yeah, for sure. Which was interesting because Tricky had to tell a little bit of his backstory about his past. He hasn't really, as a character, had to do much talking about it. As you probably have seen, Theron and Tricky, whenever they get attacked, they just go into like, I don't want to talk about it, man, mode. And it was good to sort of say, oh yeah, no, I genuinely am looking for my father, because like through the campaign so far, it's been a very the backstory is a very, does he really want to see his father or not? And I've kind of been playing it as like, no, like what he did to Tricky the character before like he took off would mean no, he wouldn't want to do that. Like he broke his arm and like basically took him out of the trial for his like coming of age thieves guild, etc., etc. I won't reveal it like too much more. But at the same time, the more I play the character, the more I think about just, you know, life in general. You're like, no, I think like somebody would want to like repair that journey. So it was good to sort of like, I'm getting more and more of these set pieces where Tricky can kind of go, you know, like I am looking for my father. And I do believe Qoryn got a little bit of a lore dump a few sessions ago from, I can't remember what your friend was in Trollskull Tavern. The one that had been at Luskin, I can't remember what her name was.
Oh yeah, Genevieve. Yeah.
Genevieve, that's the one. It was, yeah, so...
Canonically, Qoryn's ex is somebody that you guys already knew, which is quite fun to me.
Yeah, that's cleverly woven into the backstory. So yeah, he was able to reveal a little bit about how he's looking for his father down in Undermountain. I'm wondering if maybe, spoiler alert, a little bit into the next session we'll get a chance to have a bit more of a conversation with Bahiti the Sphinx, but we'll see what happens there. And then Theron's almighty 30+ charisma saves. He basically can't get anti-rizzed out by anything. He was essentially in the dungeon somewhere where he had to be pulled in to meet this Sphinx. And the story was about the trials. I think the Sphinx wanted to kind of trial us and test us, really vibe check us on anti-evil, was my kind of read of that situation.
Yeah, that's a Sphinx thing for sure.
For sure.
It's vibe checking people with overly ridiculous trials.
And it was...
Vibe check via attempted murder is kind of, you know, how Sphinxes do.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting, right? Because you know coming into this party that there is some dark shit on the horizon with everything that's kind of Theron's been through with getting vibe checked by Asmodeus and all of that stuff that went on. I think we have been playing it very what's the worst that could happen, you know? Whereas I think really in the game there are actual
it'll be fine.
Yeah, no, you'll be right, mate. Come on. Whereas in the game, like there is real world consequences to that sort of stuff. Which we've been playing very obliviously up until, I think, this moment.
Well, I've always felt like whenever it's come up that your characters have always been, as a coping mechanism, flippant about it, being like, yeah, no, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Such cope. Just huffing huge amounts of cope.
It does come across as like, yeah, it'll totally be fine. Let's just not talk about it or think about it, and it'll be fine. And there's this definitely underlying vibe of this is actually extremely serious, but we can't deal with it, so we're just going to, we're going to put that little box and then push it down into all of our repressed emotions. And just leave it at the bottom. Yeah.
Which again, it plays into why I like Qoryn's joviality, because I think as the game progresses, you're going to get a lot more chances to like dig that out of us a lot more, and it's going to open us up a little bit more as well, because of the stuff we've been through, or like the both of us, and even Ryket's going through some pretty heavy stuff as well. We're all a little bit like, do we need to talk about, man? Let's just like hope all this. Let's go to the Winchester and hope it all blows over.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, the Sphinx did send us on this battle trial, which I thought was a fun and interesting. What would you say? It was a trial. I was trying to find another word for a trial, but I thought that like combat when all five of us are there. I don't think we've had a combat encounter when all five of us have been here. I think Ryket was away when we first had Qoryn. And I've always like playing through with new people coming and going. You always think, somebody gets a chance to use their character, right? In a scenario, like you always like. For me as a player, I'm always like, go ahead.
Me never getting to use a spell.
Go ahead. Like, do whatever you like. There's no wrong answers here, man. Like, if you want to do this and that, then go right ahead. Because there's that whole, you're a new person, like you can't make any mistakes. Like we're all trying to get along, trying to work out how we play with each other and like use each other's abilities. And Qoryn just instantly was doing like 90 feet of movement straight out into the corners.
He was doing that monk shit. He was getting the job done. It was
like awesome.
People playing to the strengths of their class. There's something to be said about, and there's something to be said for, as a general rule, like min-maxing, making for less interesting story. But that's got to be balanced with having competent characters that are fun and enjoyable, not only to play, but even vicariously as a listener, you would get like, oh, cool, they're doing that thing, they're doing their class's thing, and that's helping the party in this way. And he literally just carried the fight by just being fast.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was awesome to see.
The rest of us basically took that whole encounter as us just all standing around holding our dicks, to be honest. Like,
pretty much, because I think like it was funny because I think we got hit with spells very early on because we were in that cluster, and I didn't even have a chance to move yet. And she's like, they're throwing out shade, and I'm like, I haven't even had a turn yet. Like, far out. Like, get out of here, man.
I mean, you just wait. You'll see the true power of Qoryn when one of his spells ever works on an enemy. That's when you'll know.
For sure. I love that you hit me with the invisible too. I think Tricky himself can cast invisible as a arcane trickster, and that is very helpful for getting that first shot off. I felt like in the moment though, I was like, there's no utility to this at the moment, so I was just like, I'm just going straight for the at advantage hidden shot basically, which was good.
Yeah, well, again, this is the thing of putting yourself in, instead of min-maxing the efficiency of your character, I put myself in his shoes, and I think you're in a weird situation. There's stuff that looks like it's going to charge you, made of molten fire from 4 different corners. Like he's going to go, this would probably be less dangerous for me if I were invisible, and obviously knowing Tricky's skill set and being stood right next to him, it's like, do it to both of us.
It was
it made sense from an in-character perspective. Mechanically, I probably could have done more useful things on that turn, but
we all have those. We all have those thoughts. I could have done something in that fight. It takes me back to when we were fighting Fluffy, and I think a few flights after that, I think you had an issue where you got grappled by something else. I think it was coming out of the Trollskull. Coming out of the yawning portal, where I got grappled in the fight previously, and I was like, this sucks. Like, this is the worst, man. I couldn't do anything. Like, it was useless. Do I now need to think about my character and go, like, I need to get something to get out of that now? Like, it was one of those, like, claustrophobic, suffocating things. Whereas in this fight, having all that open space just makes you feel like, oh, cool. Like, I've got things to do. I've got, like, I can move out of the way. For Tricky, there was not really that much to hide behind in this fight. But, you know, I found a way to make it work. It was the riddles. I think there was a riddle straight away, and Theron was just, like, godly on the riddles. I'm not sure if that's a Lockie thing, or there would maybe have been some a little Google action maybe in the background happening. I think that was the meme at the time.
I mean, from my perspective, I think that it's acceptable to Google the answers if it's been like 3 turns and nobody has a fucking clue, and you're just like, at that point, I would just roll something to see, is my character smarter than me and could figure it out.
I think he would smite me, because I do genuinely think he's good at riddles. But it was funny throwing a bit of shade on him and be like, man, stop Googling him. Like, it was funny. But then he actually came up with the second round of what would you call them? Like, riddles with answers. And it was the hand, like, what can you hold in your right hand but you can't hold in your left hand? And he said the right hand. And I don't know why. I was just like, it's your arm. Like, it has to be your arm, right? Because you can hold your own hand. Like, the whole time I was just thinking, like, you can hold your own hand. Like, you can't, like, you know, you can't hold your arm at all. And then I said and it was like, that's not the correct answer. But I'm a gracious DM, and I will give it to you anyway, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not good at riddles. I'm smart in many ways, but I'm also dumb in certain ways, like word puzzles like that. I'm just like, can you give it to me in the form of a mathematical equation? Like, and then I'll be able to figure it out. But when it's like wordplay puzzles, I'm like, oh shit. And as a DM, that kind of sucks because it means I'm really bad at coming up with riddles and puzzles.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's one of the skills that you want to have as a DM, and it's probably the one that I'm lacking the most. I'm shit at making up puzzles and riddles. So it's just like, go on DM Guild or some other site and
site and Google a riddle.
Give me some riddles for this specific situation, please, guys who are better at this than me.
And it was pretty clutch that he came in with those answers, because it changed around the terrain. I think the next one was acid, where I got bumped into the acid, which then turned into lava. I took a little bit of damage from that, which was fun. And then there was those zombie centaurs, which I thought was a fascinating addition. I think it was like a homebrew character that she made up. And I don't think Molten Gold it was. I don't think, like, this was a fight where we didn't get to just go, oh, what was that cool thing you did? Because everything was, like, moving so quickly and changing around so quickly. But, I was shouting out the zombie centaurs, which was an interesting addition. Not made up by the DM, sorry. But you should just take the credit. No takesies backsies. And then what else happened? I think Karim took out some zombies, centaurs, and then I think it changed again to blood. Yeah, this is where I wanted to get to, where you made I think it was a perception check, right, to see that there was like a little Chris Angel style bridge in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
Who's the British magician? The little Weasley looking dude. Oh, what's his name?
Weasley looking dude?
Yeah, he's like a little Weasley looking magician dude, and he was like really, in the mid 2010s, he had like TV shows.
Oh, fucking,
you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, not David Blaine, that's the American one, right? I know who you mean. It was one of those street magicians.
Yeah.
He was cringe.
Yeah.
He was like, he was cringe.
And that was what I was thinking of the whole time when I was listening to it. I'm just going, that guy, man, where like he would be someone who would have like a perspex thing on the surface of the water that you couldn't see properly, and would walk across, and everyone would be like, whoa, mind blown, man. And then you realize it's just a perspex box that you can just see through, right? So I think you stepped out onto the platform, and instantly out of the water came some more zombies, or some more like corpses or something, blood corpses or something.
I stepped into a very fun time. Is what happened there.
And what did you try and cast? I think you tried to cast something, right?
I can't even remember what I tried to cast. It was just, I can't remember. All I remember is it didn't work because it never worked.
Which was the meme. One of the big memes of the night was just like, I have not cast a single thing that has worked in this entire campaign so far.
Yeah, I genuinely think that's true. I haven't gone back and re-listened and checked, but I genuinely think it is the case.
Yeah, I think
I have not cast a spell successfully on an enemy so far in this campaign.
Maybe one
every
or two.
Single time.
Maybe one.
I think they've saved every single time.
Oh yeah, no, you were up in the we're up in the like fighting the banshees or whatever, and I think you threw out something then too, and it failed. And it was it was a fun time because I feel like when you finally start getting off these spells, it's gonna be a fun time, right?
I honestly can't wait until I level up because I mean, this is not really a spoiler. I'll be taking all of my remaining levels in Bard, so that will give me access to higher level spells, and that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Have
you played a Bard before?
7th level in Bard. I have, yeah.
Like all the way through to.
No, I think the highest I got to was level 8 in that campaign. We were doing.
Was it just pure Bard?
That one was pure Bard.
Because I think this Battle Master is an interesting, it's going to keep you thinking about different things and keep you on your toes, and you're going to have different things to throw out there to keep it interesting, which I like. That you have trip attacks and stuff like that, and it's whenever you use them, I'm like, yes, this is sick.
You just wait until Qoryn has a reason to fight a duel, and he is going to look so much more competent than he normally looks, because that's his the whole specialty around what he's built around is he wants to be an amazing duelist. He wants to be renowned as a duelist, and being able to beat anyone in a 1v1, 1v1 me, bro.
1v1 me, bro.
He's not super built for being able to fight multiple enemies. He's fine. He does just as well as any other fighter type class, but he's more about that. Give me someone to fucking 1v1.
It's good because with Theron taking Glaive now, if we didn't have any more martial characters, it totally destroys Tricky's ability to get sneak attacks off, because now he's always going to be 10 feet away from everything. And I didn't think about it at the time, because I remember the night that he was like, I'm going to take Polearm Master, I'm going to do it. And we were like, yeah, man, do it. Get a polearm, that's going to be sick. And then I remember in the first session where he started using his polearm, he's 10 feet away from everything. I'm like, no, this is not good, man. I mean, this sucks, dude. This sucks. He's like, I don't care, man.
Polearm Master, Great Weapon Master, Sentinel, those 3 feats in combination are a fucking joke.
Yeah, nasty.
It makes you feel very, very strong. And, I've actually seen in some discussion threads with DMs on various sites like the D&D Beyond forums and stuff like that, is some DMs will object to this and think, oh, it's really cheesy, they're cheesing my encounters. It's like, dude, give the martial classes something, The whole idea of the feats is especially with fighters specifically, because they get more feats/ASIs than any other class, because they scale very poorly in comparison to other classes in several different ways, chiefly being dealing with large numbers of enemies.
Yeah.
Fighters can do they basically have one blow your load turn of using their action surge and all their million fucking attacks and just going ham on the one big guy.
Yeah.
And that can be really fun. But then for the rest of the fight, if you don't have a bunch of interesting feats, you can start to feel underwhelming, and it just turns into I hit thing with sword.
Yeah,
I hit thing with sword.
Just slapping things. Yeah. It can sometimes get a little bit like that with the rogue, where especially like a ranged rogue, it can get a little bit like, well, no, I'm stepping up and shooting again. Oh, I'm stepping up and shooting again. I'm stepping up and shooting.
Like,
but at least,
so how do I get sneak attack this turn?
Pretty much. I like that. Like I like that my brain is constantly going, all right, how can I work this through? What can I do? And I think I remember back in the day, like way back, I didn't have the extra features turned on. And the DM goes in and turns them on and just like, you got steady aim, right? And I was like, I'm sorry, what is that? And she's like, steady aim. It's like one of the features. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I had to go in and see what it was. I'm like, oh, this is great. I can do hit with advantage on my turn. This is fantastic.
I personally don't like steady aim. I think that's an example of feature creep that has come into 5th edition. And Jack, can you
come on, Jacko? Settle down, Jacko.
It's an example of sort of a feature creep, I would say, that's kind of snuck into 5e. And the only reason that I don't like it is because it kind of steps on the toes of one of the existing rogue subclasses that essentially uses a bonus action to make an insight check against an enemy, and then can get sneak attack. Whereas with this, it's just any rogue can just say bonus action, do this, and now I have sneak attack. So it's like there's been a few examples of that with various different classes that just make you think, well, it's taking like a pretty large chunk feature away, and that particularly rogue subclass has been kind of screwed as well, just by a homebrew ruling thing that a lot of DMs follow, which I don't. And thankfully, Nonverbal doesn't either, which is, making perception checks as a free action on your turn. Whereas, that subclass has one where they can do it as a bonus action. So was that one of those things that's like...
Was that Dexter that you were playing? Was that class? Inquisitor or whatever?
Yeah. Wait. Was Dexter Inquisitor? Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was another thing we got to revisit as well. That one as well.
I would have really enjoyed that with a full party. That one shot.
That would have been good. Yeah, it would have been good. We'll have to bust that out as well at some point during the year. But it is. I do agree. Steady aim is a little bit like I try not to use it a lot, and I'm not just doing the whole I don't use it that much. I try not to. I try to find other ways to use sneak attack, but sometimes it's just really difficult to do. And now, with Theron with his 10-foot reach, so I like that Qoryn is at least getting in there and providing a little distraction. But now I guess that we have Karim, it's gonna be a lot easier, I guess. It's hard. Like in that first fight, like I remember just thinking to myself, like I don't want him to just go in and just be like, oh well, I'm taking all the damage now, am I? Because like as a player, I just thought I don't want him to feel like that's what he has to do, right? But at the same time, I was like, bro, like, and then he did the dodge action, and I think there was like 6 attacks, and he like they whiffed on all of them, and I was just like, this is gonna be sick.
Yeah, I mean. Just a thing that I really like about the party in general is that we don't seem to have any really like full casters or full marshals so much. Everyone's got kind of a nice mix of features. With the whole, my class and subclass is the whole like being able to basically be a fighter and also have the bard spells, and then we've got paladins also half martial, and then you've got arcane trickster, and so there's a lot of like different interesting things that we can do, and I really enjoy parties that are not like min-maxed and optimized.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes you think more creatively, and the encounters are more interesting.
For sure. It's not something like I often make the joke that I'm the least experienced, but it's also not something that I'm that good at. Because like you say, like you can do other things like perception checks and do all these different types of things. Usually I just go for damage. I'm like, I'll shoot, I'll take another shot, I'll shoot, I'll move here. And you're right. I think it does bring like different aspects to a game if you are like remembering to do those different things.
I think it's actually funny because I feel like the combat efficiency of D&D players is a perfect bell curve, because on the left-hand side of the bell curve, you have people that are playing combat inefficiently because they don't know what they're doing, and on the right hand you have people who are playing combat inefficiently because they're experienced and they'll know it'll make for a more interesting and fun story. And then in the middle, there's the players that are like, right, I understand how everything works, I know how my class works, I'm going to make sure that I get the maximum out of each turn, you know, and that's fine. That's a perfectly valid way of playing. But I think once you get past a certain point, you're more looking for, like, what's the most in-character, interesting thing that could happen?
For sure.
You know, and let's go down that route. You know, you're not going to the point of, like, screwing over your team by doing deliberately stupid shit that's going to get you killed.
Yeah.
But it's more just like, I could do something, you know, turn efficient or DPS efficient, but it would be more interesting and probably more in character to do this other thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So it ends up being kind of a bell curve, you know?
It definitely makes it a more fun experience. And then, yeah, for me as a player, I like sitting there and like thinking about what the people are going to do. And then you think about what you're going to do. And then it's like this whole chain reaction that gets set off of just like, okay, well, I'm going here. Oh, no, he didn't do that. I'm going over here. Like, I'm doing this. Oh, no, he's not here. He's like, this guy's moved there. And I think it makes the fights like more chaotic and dangerous. And there's a little more like at stake. So then, yeah, we eventually finished off the last riddle and the last gold statue to... You know, we won the duel. We won the trial, and it was like, hooray, we've done it. And I think Karim had nabbed already from the outside staff of healing and an amulet of health. I do believe that was what he ended up snaking out of those chests.
Yeah.
And then
what was it? Was it the cloak one of them, or was that one of the things in the?
Oh, it was the cloak. You're right. It was the cloak. It was a hellhound cloak in the end. Yeah, I'm not gonna read it. It's an interesting item, and I think in canon, in character, our players would give that to Theron and go, "Here you go, dude. Have a go with this," because he loves putting on cursed items. Sorry. So yeah, we were offered, you know, these items by Bahiti as a tribute to our stellar work during that fight. There was a staff of healing, an amulet of health, a ring of evasion, and a ring of necrotic resistance. A hell. Yeah, that would be fascinating. And a hellhound cloak. So I'm assuming at the start of the next session, there'll be a little bit of what do you think is going to work with you? Hey, what do you need? Well, I think Reichert's going to take the staff of healing, but the necrotic resistance
that
ring.
one's a no-brainer.
Interesting. I wonder who's going to take that.
I mean, I feel like that's just kind of good on anyone, really, isn't it? There's not really a particular person that's going to be you know, more good on than other people. Yeah, you know.
And then, yeah, the Hellhound Cloak's going to be the most interesting. I won't read it out. I did just see that, you know, it does say cursed. So I was like, oh, Theron, you going to put this one on? Hey, put this on for us, Theron. Anyway, sorry, you don't get that inside joke. You haven't been here long enough.
No. Thank you for excluding me.
No,
when I'm the only person here. It makes you feel really fucking welcome, man.
It's canon that he puts on. He's had the cursed items in this campaign so far, and he had a sword that was stuck to his hand permanently.
Nice.
He couldn't sheath it or do anything, and it was a moon touch sword, so it emitted light all the time. So he had to like put it under his robe if he wanted to be stealthy at all. Anyway, yeah, Theronisms, eh? Yeah, so that was the end of the session, number 77, and I think it's going to pick up at a nice little point not next week, but the week after when we resume, because I think from here we'll probably, if we have a full table, we'll start to go after Qoryn's, what would you call it, colleague, love interest? ... Question mark?
I mean, genuinely, I mean, just a childhood friend of his.
Oh, okay.
Grew up together.
A lot of stuttering going on.
Yeah, I'm just deciding how much I want to give away, but
Yeah,
it's
fair,
not like
no,
it's
fair.
not like a crazy in-depth like part of his backstory or anything. But yeah, they know each other from when they were kids. Grew up in the same place, and they have some history.
For sure.
But just because he's a bard doesn't mean that history involves some kind of romance.
Well, you can't blame a guy for thinking that.
I feel your judgment.
No judgment. There's definitely, I think, Theron and Tricky, there's no romantic interests at all coming their way through this entire series.
Well, I mean,
because everyone around them just ends up dying, and
Qoryn just takes everyone else's fair share anyway.
Yeah,
so.
no, fair. Because I think there was at one point on one of the levels, there was like a small town, and I think Tricky like went up to one of the girls, was like, "Oh, how you doing?" And then a fight broke out, and all these snakes just were let out, and the snakes ended up killing like 5 of the NPCs around him, and it was one of them was this girl. So I was just like, "Oh, take it easy, have a great night, like see you later," which no, not between Theron and Tricky, like between the two characters, they have had no love interests or no romantic interests at all.
That could be an interesting.
As soon as I said it, I was like, okay, that's going to be misconstrued.
It's just like this really like really slow burn.
Yeah,
really slow burn. Like neither of them wants to admit it.
Deep burn. I think there was at one point where we were like, no, we can get chicks. Like, we're awesome. Like a full on, like, incel type behavior, which I thought was pretty funny.
Good. Oh God, because if that's the equivalent that we're going with, and Qoryn's like gonna like teach them something, then he's gonna come off as like one of those YouTube pickup artists. Like, this is what you do to get girls.
Hustlers
The
University.
worst kind of people, man. The worst.
But so now we have reached the part of the session, the podcast, I guess, where we talk about Qoryn. I was trying to just slip that segue in, and then we moved away from it. Qoryn being a bard, a 6th level bard, 3rd level fighter, a self-proclaimed bardal master, which I thought was a pretty awesome name.
Oh, I like a pun,
Yeah,
and it's right there.
It was right there. It was well played. I think that should be wider noted. I think there should be a subclass. I think you should start designing the subclass right now.
Well, it is a fairly min-maxed like class combo for the very specific thing that I wanted him to be good at. So it doesn't have like a broad-reaching, this is good at stuff thing. It's like, you want to be a good duelist, this gives you a lot of tools for that, and that's his whole thing when it comes to combat.
For sure. So what was your first thoughts when you were making the character? Was that what you were going for?
I just had in mind your sort of classical Three Musketeers style, charismatic, swashbuckling type guy. And then I brought in a lot of basically just a lot of my own personality, and then just exaggerated a lot of the character traits that, I see in myself, a lot of the traits and flaws that I have as a person. And, that's the whole kind of thing. If you're playing a character that is fairly similar to you, is to just exaggerate those things and play it up to a fantastical degree. And I think you can make for entertaining characters. It's like you think of say like Ryan Reynolds. He basically plays Ryan Reynolds super exaggerated in every role he ever plays. There's a lot of actors like that. They just play an exaggerated version of themselves.
For sure.
Every character. That's the kind of thing that I was going with, which sounds lazy, and maybe it is.
No,
but, I think it's fun.
It is one way to look at it, but at the same time, it's all about being comfortable, right? And if you're coming into a game, like I know coming into a game, sometimes you don't know how you're going to fit, right? You don't know what's going to be happening. You might make this class where you're like, this character where you're like, he's going to do this. And then you realize like, oh, you're just the same as somebody, or you're coming in and you're like the third wheel and like what you've made doesn't work properly and this is like useless and you're not going to want to play it, and then you as a player end up being like, oh, I don't want to play this sucks type of thing. So I'm glad that at least you were pretty like really comfortable coming into the game to, you know, express yourself in your only way possible, which was who you are, which I thought like it fits perfectly with the group.
Yeah, well, you know, it definitely makes it easier, especially joining an existing campaign. If it's very easy for you to step into the shoes of your character. So writing something that's familiar enough to you as a person, I think is helpful with that for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think the previous character that I played the last time I was a player was very, very different. You know, I played a very low charisma, quite serious character, which is, you know, probably sounds funny to anyone that's listened to me as part of this one. They're like, who the fuck is that guy? But yeah, so that's a bit more challenging for me because it involves shutting up, which is not something I'm good at. So this, I wanted to go with something that I could just kind of, you know, join a group and, you know, be myself as much as possible, because especially when you're meeting new people, you've got to do that. And you know, when you can do that in character as well as out, I think it's helpful. And I think it's helped with, you know, me joining the group, and you guys have all just been like really nice and welcoming, and we all get along very easily. You know, when it comes to talking to other people, I think if you're mixing Aussies, Brits, South Africans, Kiwis, you know, that you're going to get a pretty easy vibe in general, because we all have similar humor. It's all based on taking the piss out of each other. Everyone is very familiar very quickly. You know, you can call someone in the first 15 minutes of meeting them and it's fine. Whereas, you know, you bring in somebody that's not part of that kind of general shared humor culture, and it might be a bit less comfortable.
For sure. And whether like the people in the game are receptive, I guess like it's more about like the personality, right? And beyond playing the game as your character, right? I don't know, that just sounded like, you know, I need to go and rip another one at the back, but it is part of who you are playing too, right? That makes it part of the character, which I think again is the best part that I feel fits with our group, because we all make the same like funny jokes too, like, and then we riff off it, and then you might say one thing and we get the joke, and then like you can keep riffing off it, and then like the innuendo humor like starts rolling, and then I think that environment, like there's time for there's time and, you know, time and a place for serious gaming, but also there's time for goofs, right? And when there's more goofs, there's more fun. Like you have more fun.
Yeah, I think that too many people in D&D games will try to either force an atmosphere of seriousness or force an atmosphere of like, oh, we do the big memes. Whereas if you just play the game as you kind of feel that it should be played, that stuff's all going to come naturally anyway. If you've got a good DM and you've written good characters, the serious moments will be there and they'll have impact, and people will know when to be serious. And then, you know, if you're just naturally riffing off each other, then the memes and comedy value will just come along naturally, both in and out of character. So
I think that's why,
I think as long as you're not trying to force it, it always goes well.
Yeah, and it's, you know, also I think that's why I wanted to start the stream too, because I think like some of the stuff, like some of the memes and the jokes, like are worthy enough for people to kind of want to watch and listen to and have a laugh along with us. So that's yeah, kind of why I wanted to start it. Like, it was when you joined, I was just like, right, I think we've got a group here that like we can take online. We can all have a laugh and try and draw a little bit of an audience. But your character, Qoryn, tell us, if you can, or if you believe you can, tell us a little something about like just his backstory about prior to joining the group.
So that he has got one quite interesting and potentially useful connection that might come up, which I won't go into because it might come up. He's part of an organization, sort of, and was up in Luskan doing stuff for that organization, and has potentially connections to some, well, at least vague connections to some major players around the Waterdeep area.
Layers.
But yeah, I mean, his backstory I wrote as being very simple. You know, I wanted to have this kind of homegrown, head in the clouds, kind of just wants to be an adventurer because it seems like the most interesting thing to do with his life. So there's nothing that's like forced him out of circumstance to do it. There's nothing that's been like, you know, some horrible thing that has befallen him. You know, like every D&D character, he's got daddy issues, but that's just because he doesn't know his dad. But
yeah, every human, yeah. Well, you're half elf, aren't you?
Yeah, half elf. Yeah. But you know, that's a pretty common trope.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the whole daddy issues thing. But that's, you know, he doesn't know who his dad was. I mean, I think he's been told by his mum, you know, who his dad was. She's been a bit cagey about it, so there might be something interesting there. I did like the vague hinting that he might be Theron's half brother in the first session. That was quite entertaining. Like that could be a thing. It could not be a thing. Either way, that was quite a fun thing to throw in there. When they were just kind of like, they had the pointing at each other Spider-Man meme moment where they're like, wait.
For sure.
What's that about your dad? Wait, what's that about your dad?
Don't rule it out. You never know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, his backstory is pretty simple. You know, grew up in Waterdeep, and lived with his mum. He kind of a bit of a juvenile delinquent because of boredom. And you know, his mum was never. They were never poor, but she's not particularly rich. You know, she used to be an adventurer. Got a decent amount of money from that. Bought a tavern, runs a tavern that does averagely well. So, yeah, it's like a fairly normal, fairly comfortable life. There's no like great tragedy that's befallen him. He just got in a bit of trouble with a relatively powerful guy and had to leave.
That's Waterdeep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what actually brought you back?
Or
if you don't want to reveal, that's all good.
I won't reveal everything, but you know, his motivation for coming along is what it was established to be from the outset, which is finding his friend who has gone missing. You know, when he came back to the city, spoke to his mum. It's one of the first things she mentioned. It's that this person's gone missing, and he's got to go and figure that out. So yeah, it's a pretty simple character backstory wise. I mean, there is some stuff in there that, you know, might come up later that I don't want to reveal because it could be fun.
For sure.
But I mean, yeah, I wrote quite a few NPCs into his backstory and did some quite in-depth descriptions of them, as you know.
Yeah, I think
someone is want to do if they DM and they.
Yeah, I've coming up with stories. For Tricky, like I've kind of, not to hijack it, but like I've tried to go back into the backstory of the actual like 5e canon and try and write some like backstory. And I think I went back like a little bit too far with what I've been writing. And one thing I haven't really like looked at that much is like the history of Waterdeep. Because Tricky is from Baldur's Gate and Theron is also. And like that plays into this game as well, right? Like he's in a totally new environment. He doesn't know, like I've obviously played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 as a game. So I kind of know like the history of what's happened through playing those games. But something that like I haven't looked at is Waterdeep. So it's interesting like hearing about things that have happened through the game and through other characters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I did a similar thing in terms of tying Qoryn to Waterdeep in a lore-friendly way from the Forgotten Realms, because just seemed like the thing to do. So the person that he pissed off was a member of the Growlhund family, which I think we've touched on in game. But essentially, what had happened was that he had fought a duel with this guy after beating him in a game of chance, and the guy took exception to this. Basically, lost at cards to Qoryn, who accused him of, and then accused Qoryn of cheating, which he may or may not have been, and was challenged to a duel, which Qoryn won quite convincingly and quite embarrassed this guy in the process, and also maimed him slightly. Just some light maiming.
It's a little light maiming.
Yeah, removed a couple of his fingers and also stabbed him in the leg, so he has a permanent limp and walks with a cane now. So
was that intentionally after the duel, or was it in the course of the duel?
That was in the course of the duel.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, does it get dark?
That's actually where Qoryn got his rapier. It was this guy's rapier. And he took it after the duel and fucked off. He only actually learned who this guy was afterwards, because he had sent some thugs after Qoryn to basically beat him up and try and drive him out of the town. And Qoryn finally left when these same guys showed up and kind of partially trashed his mum's tavern before they were chased off. And then he was like, right, okay, if you're fucking with my mum now, then I'd best leave this instead of escalating it. So I'm gonna fuck off and remove myself from the situation. But having come back to Waterdeep by necessity, he now might have to deal with the repercussions of that if it's discovered that he's there.
So I guess you aren't different. You're not different, you and I, and Theron and I, and Ryket and I.
You're not so different, you and I.
Which will be enjoyable. I think one of the fun things all through the campaign has been like, oh, who is it? All right, who is it today? Like, which group are you from? Now. Come on, which group are you from? Let us know. Which I will be interested to see if there is somebody coming back through your backstory for us to just be like, cool, and you turn up the house lights so we can show there's a fifth member of the group, like, which will be super interesting. So you joined the campaign while we were in that Golden Goblin, the casino.
Yes.
What between returning to Waterdeep and getting to that casino, there was no funny business. Nobody was alerted to your presence. Like, you're pretty comfortable that you're happy to be stomping around down below in Undermountain.
Well, this is the thing, is that for the majority of the time that Qoryn is walking around the city proper, he is under the effect of a disguise self spell. Yeah. One of the magic items that Qoryn has is his hat. He's a hat of disguise, so he can at will cast disguise self.
For sure. So does he look like what we're seeing so far?
Well.
Okay, no.
You don't know.
Yeah, cool. You don't know.
He might not.
Very interesting. I do like those little character things that people sprinkle in underneath their character, like stuff like that. It's very like fun when people do that.
So, Qoryn came back into town with the intention of keeping a low profile and being careful, but he's also doesn't particularly have the personality to do that successfully for a long time. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely been times when he's just walked around just being him, because he's kind of cocky as well. There's a little bit in him that kind of wants to invite that energy, that he wants to invite the whole, I'm here, what are you going to do about it kind of thing.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a character flaw there in terms of being somewhat reckless, and that goes along with his whole persona and wanting to be this famous adventurer who fights these duels and has songs to sing about himself and poems to write about himself when he's hangs up his hat and sword. So his character flaw is definitely in line with like being a bit vain, a bit reckless, he's also not really lost at anything. And when you've spent your life winning at stuff, when you've spent your life succeeding, when you haven't really had any setbacks, it gives you this false sense of being like untouchable. So he's probably going to get reality checked quite badly at some point.
It's that's good. That's good. It's I think
hubris is definitely his biggest
for sure.
biggest weakness.
For sure. I think you're in a good group where you're probably gonna like that's gonna come back. But all of us are going to be there being like, nah, come on, man. Like, it's all good. Like, and we'll lift you back up, which will be good. Which will be good. It's interesting because kind of Tricky's like the same sort of thing. A little bit of the same sort of thing as well. Like, one of those, it kind of mirrors like my life a little bit in a way where like I've always kind of just been naturally good at doing things. Like, whether it's like music, sport, and stuff like that. Like, I've never really had to work for things all that much. Which I've tried to kind of pour into what this character is as well, is the same sort of like he's not great at doing things where he can't like just pick it up. Like you'll find that I'll close off pretty quickly by going like, oh, like don't worry about it, like we won't do that, and like move on very quickly and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're not immediately good at something, it's just like I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Which I think it's a fun thing to kind of in a game. It's a fun little plot point where people can kind of rally around you and it's all good, man. Like nah, we'll work through this. Like it's all good. Which I think this is the group. This is the group to have. And anything else you want to let slip about Qoryn?
I think there will be. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. It's a little minor character moment that I've been looking forward to playing out. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, but it could happen any session really. Is that Qoryn has never killed a person.
Ooh, interesting. It sucks. There's things now that it's like, oh damn, I have to just like push these into the bin in my mind and not think about them ever again. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So I feel like that could be
very interesting.
A fun thing to play out when that inevitably is going to become a necessity and a reality.
And you said person, right? Like another human being.
Yeah.
Like in that kind of way.
So like,
yeah.
Yeah, like monsters and stuff like that is one thing, right? But like a person is another.
Very, very fascinating. That'll be very interesting if that ever happens, because I'm assuming that's going to happen at some point, right? Whether it be like one of Ryket's, myself's, or Theron's backstory coming back to Roost, or yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like people might come after you, and you might have to, do the deed. Very interesting. Very interesting.
It's the sort of thing that feels inevitable as like something that an adventurer would do, and that people become quite flippant about and quite detached from. So I feel like that could be an interesting thing to play up, is what his reaction might be to that. Because depending on the situation, I don't even know what his reaction is going to be to that, because it's going to just depend entirely on how it comes about and what it looks like.
Excellent. Very interesting. I think in this group too, that makes me think like in this group, there isn't that like murderous element too. Like all five of us, I think, are like quite morally upstanding type people, as well as players, and playing characters that are quite like, they don't just senselessly want people to be murdered. And if people come along and take the fight them, then they're going to fight back, and that's a totally different thing. But that'll also be interesting for your backstory if that ever comes up later. So yeah, that's one to look out for the people in the audience.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things that you don't actually see very, very often, especially in fantasy genres, because it's all quite abstract. Is killing another person should be a very affecting thing the first time you do it.
Yeah.
And then people start to get desensitized to it. It's that's shown a lot in media like war movies.
Yep.
But then it not so much in like fantasy and stuff like that.
For sure. Even the moral ambiguity of kill or be killed as well is part of it, right? Like I've been watching a lot of Western type movies, and even the heroes, you're like they did some bad stuff, man, and it's you're rooting for them, they're the heroes, but at the same time like you're like they've done bad things too. So there's that moral, and I think that moral ambiguity, and I think in this game, as D&D in general, it's a more fun experience if you're conscious of that, and your whole group's conscious of that, and you're all like pulling in that kind of direction where there is some gravity and weight to those situations.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a general broad assumption that when you're killing a person in a D&D context, it's pretty much always justified. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it should be any less affecting, particularly if it's not something your characters experience. You know, on a similar note, I like to remind my players of this, getting in their feels and shit. Like they get, I'll give an example. A low-level party of players that had just started playing D&D. They never played D&D before. They're a bunch of my IRL mates that I went to uni with and stuff, and we get drunk and play D&D like a couple of times a year. They got attacked by a group of bandits, and they're like, you know, they're playing it like a video game, like, yeah, fucking kill them, blah, blah. And then they're looting them, and on one guy they find a locket with a picture of his family in it, and they're like, dude, whoa, shit,
whoa.
You know, it's that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, these are people that you just killed. Like it might have been justified, it might have been self-defense, but you know, you still gotta like keep that in your brain.
For sure, and yeah, it's imita art that imitates life, right?
It's like poetry.
Not necessarily modern life. It's not necessarily like that, like now in this era, but at some point in human history, it was kind of like that.
Yeah, you can be the most dashing Three Musketeers type person, but if you shoot someone with a musket and blow a fucking 6-inch hole in their chest, that's still gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, for sure. Or you could wear a helmet or a mask the entire time and no one will ever know who you are.
Yeah, I've canonically in my mind, Theron is just constantly doing the like fake smug, actually angry Wojak thing.
Sorry facing the whole time. Yeah. Oh, that lit me up the first time you were saying that. That was so funny. But yeah, and yeah, like I think very interesting as somebody who didn't know that. Playing in the game, I think that's going to be very interesting, and I like that. I like there's these little things buried in the character somewhere that you can dig up and just go, oh wow, that's cool, like that's awesome. And I think the audience is going to enjoy that as well.
Yeah, I'm just mostly looking forward to getting 4th level spells, to be honest.
Yeah, just get me to. Well, you joined at the absolute wrong time because we went on like this tear. We went on this absolute like XP tear where we were just not going like. I think the dungeon's supposed to be like level based, so you stay around the same level as per level that you're in the dungeon. I could be wrong. The DM can like one day we'll talk through it with her, but. We like raced ahead. We're doing side missions. We're going here and there, like going one level, and like we'd leveled up 4 times, and we were way overpowered for the content. So I think she just was like, "Well, look, stop. We're gonna like go back to milestone where I can basically like rebalance the entire content, and then like come back and go, okay, now you can level. Now like I'm balanced and we can proceed." And there, you've come in at kind of like the wrong time.
You guys basically did the whole like you're playing Skyrim and you do all the side quests first and you're so over leveled for the main story that it's just way too easy.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's. But also, I'm kind of looking forward to. I think I just got Magical Ambush, which I muffed once trying to use it and completely forgot I had to be stealthed. And then the other time I tried to use it, I think it was a natural 20. No, it was a 16 and a natural 20 save. And it saved, and I was just like, don't you just hate that? I felt your pain in that moment. Yeah. You're just like, God damn it. I just want to do this spell, man. This sucks.
It's just one of those moments where you just sort of throw both of your arms up in the air and go, fuck it.
And it was timely, too. It was dark timely. So, like, it would have been an awesome thing to hold person him. And then be able to interrogate him and do some like lore background and lore dumping and stuff like that. So, but I think as a crew, we should. I mean, you don't know any of that backstory yourself, and Rykit doesn't either. He was here before. Oh no, it was Rykit was there, I think. But in general, as a story, I think we'll try and like do some content where we, do like a role play or like a 10-minute kind of lore video or something with a narration and stuff like that, and do some of that in the future.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah.
It would also, it could be an interesting thing to have a little session, kind of like this, but with everyone, where it could be recapped in terms of like full descriptions of their characters and like physical appearance and, you know, reminders of like who they are and what their whole shtick is.
For sure. I think in due course, it's kind of supposed to come out, right?
Yeah.
Like, as, like, you know, pros, as you're talking through what your character is through the game, I think sometimes it's difficult to, like, you're like, I got to talk about my story. Oh, okay, I don't know if I want to give everything away. I don't know what to give away, or like, do I need to, like, it's kind of a skill to be able to give away just enough to like progress the story, make people interested. And I think me personally, I'm not that great at it. So a few times in the last like few sessions where I've had a chance to talk through my story, I've kind of like flubbed it a little bit and been like, oh shit, it's my time. Yeah, my dad, I'm trying to look for my dad. And then you end up like kind of muffing a little bit, and you feel a little bit like, damn, I wish I like explained that a lot better. I wish like I could, you know, just calm down and talk about it.
You do the exact same thing with situations like that in D&D as you would when you had an argument that day, and then in the shower later on you're thinking of ways that you would have been, you know, it would have been better to have argued.
Yeah.
I should have said this.
I should have called him this. Yeah, no. There's been a few times. There's been a few of those moments where, like, later on, you're just like, "Why did I do that? I should have done this. Oh my goodness!" But then you realize, like, it's part of the whole. Like, it's a linear kind of story that goes along and along and along. And if you make mistakes, like, you get a chance to rectify them, and you get a chance to kind of like, those are part of who you are, right, in the game.
Well, there's also just a very simple element to of, you know, this character is not you, and you're trying to memorize an entire life story in your head.
For sure.
Which, you know, if you were that character, these things would be significant and you would never forget about them. But since you're playing the character and aren't the character, you know, if something's mentioned that should trigger something for you to be like, oh yeah, that would be significant to me, but you just forgot that you wrote that down. Yeah. It's a very simple element of that, of being like, oh, actually, I probably should have reacted to that in this way in hindsight, but I didn't. Oops.
Yeah, 100%. There's been a few, there's been a few times where I've done that and just gone, damn it, I wish I had done that better, but that's all good.
Shockingly, we're not actually professional actors here.
No.
So.
Well, maybe one day we will be, eh? One day.
Sure.
Sure. All right, well, thanks heaps, man, for coming along and doing this. This is really, really good fun. Really good to have a chat with you.
Yeah, man. Nice.
And I think I've learned a couple of things about Qoryn that are like very intriguing, and I'm like, that's really cool that it's in the backstory, and I'm looking forward to some of those things coming out in the future. And hopefully those people at home watching will also be like, oh cool, that'll be interesting.
I was going to ask actually, is there anything that you, either you personally or as Tricky, have wanted to know about Qoryn, or just thought like, what's up with that, or anything like that?
It's one of those moments where I'm like, there probably is. Damn it, I probably should have.
There probably is, but now that I'm being asked, no.
For sure. I think I asked enough, like, just teasy little questions that get the superfluous info out, that aren't just like, hey man, who's Zarika? Like, what is this person? Like, why is this happening? Like, you know, why are you like this? I don't have those questions.
Why are you like this?
Yeah, like,
definitely the correct question.
Yeah, I don't have those yet.
Why are you like this?
So, yeah, nothing at this stage, but hopefully we get to do another one of these kind of in the future. And I would like to do some like actual voice plays on some stuff about your character in the future. So hopefully, yeah, we'll keep that up the sleeve, and we'll work through some of that maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Qoryn, James Qoryn. That's your name.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
And thank you to everyone out there listening along. We are on Twitch at the moment. I edit these and I put these up on YouTube in replay. So if you want to go over to our YouTube, it's at the bottom at OnlyFiends DND. These also go up on an audio platform onto Anchor, which goes out to, I believe, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. So if you want to listen to these in audio form, that also goes for the Sunday game as well. You can do that. And also, yeah, thank you to Tabletop Audio for today and all the other stuff I don't need to shout out because we're not using it in this session. And we will be back. I don't know if do you want to do a one shot maybe next Sunday? If you want.
I mean,
I'm not putting you on the spot. Like if you do get time to work on it and you want to drop it on us and everyone's going to be here, then yeah, we will do that on Sunday in lieu of the game.
Yeah, it could be fun. I'm either leaning towards like a level 1 or a level 20 one shot. You know,
interesting. Because I know you did say you wanted to do it tonight, but I wanted to intercept and be like, boys, let's like have a chat. But at the same time, I was also like, do they really want to do this? I don't know if they're going to want to do this. So I was a bit like, yeah, cool. You organize a game. And then at the last minute, I was like, actually, no, I'm going for it. Like, do you guys want to just do a podcast instead and like have a chat? Because I've kind of wanted to do that for like the last couple of weeks and get a little backstory on your characters. So
yeah, well, I feel like I'm any time that we need a one shot thrown together, I'm fairly confident with doing that.
100%. Well, we may be back next Sunday to do a one shot. Otherwise, we will probably have a break until I didn't turn my calendar over, so I don't know what the date is. We'll be back. She did make an event. Why am I flubbing this? 14th of April we'll be back. Sunday, 14th of April. Whether it is UK time, what time is it there? I think it's at 11 o'clock around it starts. And then in Australia, it's 9 p.m. So come along to Twitch, come along to YouTube, and then like and subscribe to our audio and give us a 5-star rating and review. I'll just throw that in there at the end. And
give us all the good stuff.
Yeah, we shall see everyone either next week or the week after.
Yeah.
That's your cue to say goodbye.
Thanks. And
goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.